Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Let's talk about something that's probably been sitting quietly in the back of your mind every time you meet a woman, that feeling of wondering what she really wants from you, but not quite being able to read her. Maybe you've caught yourself staring at her body language, watching the way she touches her hair, the tilt of her head, the way she sits close or far. But even after all that observation, you still leave uncertain, sometimes more confused than when you started. This isn't just curiosity, this is the heart of modern dating. In this video, we're going to explore how her body language exposes what she truly wants from you. It's not about memorizing some checklist of gestures or trying to act like a human lie detector. It's about understanding how women communicate desire, interest, uncertainty, and boundaries without using a single word. And trust me, women do this constantly, especially in romantic and dating situations. The reason this is important for men, especially those over 25, is because body language is often the only honest signal you get in today's complicated dating world. Words can be guarded, profiles can be curated, but her body, in small but telling ways, often reveals the truth behind the smile. So if you're serious about connecting with women, if you're trying to navigate romance intelligently, you have to learn this language. And it's subtle. Sometimes she leans in a little closer than usual, sometimes she lingers with her touch when brushing past you, sometimes she crosses her legs towards you, or mirrors your posture exactly. But what does it mean? Is she interested? Is she signaling attraction? Is she simply being polite? When a woman is genuinely interested, her body softens near you. Her guard lowers, not just emotionally but physically too. Watch her feet. They often point toward where her attention and interest lie. If they're pointing directly at you, even if the conversation is casual, it's usually a positive sign. The direction of feet might seem trivial, but psychology studies consistently reveal that our feet betray our true interests. Even in a crowded room, when a woman's body is open and her feet are angled toward you, she's signaling openness, connection, perhaps desire. Now think about her eyes, not just whether she's making eye contact, but how she looks at you. When she's interested, her gaze is more than just glancing, it holds and invites. There's a softness there, a delay that almost asks you to notice, to see her, to step into her world. Her pupils may even dilate slightly when she's engaged or attracted, though you won't always catch this unless you're attuned and paying attention. And yet, this goes deeper than decoding signals for attraction. It's about becoming the kind of man who is present enough to read the moment. The Stoic man doesn't rush to conclusions. He remains composed, calm, and centered. He observes patiently, absorbing the subtleties of her signals without becoming reactive or needy. This is where many men fail. They see a single gesture and immediately decide it must mean she's into them. Or not. But women are far more nuanced than that. Their bodies speak in layers. For instance, when she gently touches her neck during conversation, it can mean vulnerability or attraction, but it can also signal nervousness. When she plays with her hair, it could mean she's soothing, flirting, or simply adjusting her appearance because she's aware of your gaze. The point isn't to assign a rigid meaning to every gesture, but to watch the overall consistency of her body language. When you sense alignment, her posture, her gaze, her feet, the openness of her gestures, you can feel it in the room. There's a flow, an ease between you, her barriers are lowered, her defenses softened. But if she's crossed her arms tightly, leans slightly away, or keeps shifting her body away from you, even if her words sound polite and engaging, you need to pay attention. Her body language in these moments often speaks more truth than her polite conversation. And remember, this isn't about manipulation. It's about becoming attuned to unspoken communication, so you can respect her boundaries and honor her signals. This kind of attentiveness is rare today, which is exactly why it's so attractive. Women are exhausted by men who only listen to their words and fail to notice what's going unsaid. Think about the last date you were on. Can you remember her posture, the way she positioned herself across from you? Did she lean toward you when you spoke softly? Did her eyes hold yours just a little longer than necessary? Did she mirror your movements when you reached for your drink? These are all clues that reveal not just interest but investment. This is what smart men understand. Reading a woman's body language isn't about control or dominance. It's about empathy. It's about noticing what she might not feel ready to say aloud. It's about meeting her in that quiet space where her body speaks a language she may not even fully realize she's speaking. It's easy to get trapped in your own thoughts while sitting across from someone you're attracted to. The Stoic approach is to quiet your mind, to be fully present, to observe without rushing in with assumptions or neediness. This is where attraction begins, not from flashy lines or desperate validation, seeking but from attentiveness and emotional intelligence. So next time you sit across from her, don't get distracted by your own desire for an outcome. Instead, slow down. Watch her as she speaks. Feel the rhythm of her gestures, the energy of her gaze, the openness or guardedness of her body language. Because it's all there, the truth of what she wants from you is often revealed in these quiet, subtle signals. Now that we've explored these first key ideas about how a woman's body reveals openness, softness, and attentiveness when she's interested, we can start to examine some of the more complex signals that are often misunderstood by men. The beauty of body language is that it reveals contradictions, sometimes even to the woman herself. So while she may say she's not looking for anything serious, her body might tell a different story. Leaning toward you when you speak, brushing your arm as she laughs, keeping her shoulders relaxed and her torso open. These are the moments where most men lose sight of what's unfolding right in front of them, because they either fixate on the words or they are too distracted by their own anxiety to notice. When a woman subtly tilts her head while listening, for example, she's not just absorbing your words, she's exposing her neck, an ancient gesture of trust and openness. It's one of the most overlooked yet profound cues you'll encounter. And in modern dating, where so much of our communication is filtered through screens and small talk, these bodily signals become even more important. Because when she feels safe, intrigued, or attracted, she starts revealing herself through these tiny gestures, often without realizing she's doing it. A classic signal many men misunderstand is proximity. A woman who consistently moves closer, even when there's space, is telling you she feels drawn to you. You don't need a verbal confirmation, you simply need presence. Notice whether she chooses to sit next to you when there's plenty of room elsewhere. Watch for the times she instinctively moves her chair an inch closer, or casually adjusts her body so that her knee brushes yours under the table. But proximity doesn't always mean romance. Sometimes a woman stands close because she's comfortable but not interested. The key is congruence. When her proximity matches other cues, her eye contact, her laughter, her physical openness, that's when it reveals genuine attraction. The Stoic mindset demands that you observe with patience and humility, resisting the urge to project your desires onto her gestures. Another deeply misunderstood cue is mirroring. When a woman unconsciously mirrors your posture, your gestures, even your speaking cadence, it's one of the strongest signals of psychological connection. It means she's attuned to you, aligned not just physically but emotionally. Mirroring happens beneath conscious awareness. It's the body's way of saying, I feel safe here, I like this dynamic. And yet mirroring can be so subtle that you might miss it entirely unless you're fully present in the moment. If you lean forward and seconds later she leans too, if you fold your hands on the table and soon her hands do the same, it's this shared rhythm that shows rapport. The man who moves too fast, who rushes past this dance, often misreads these cues and breaks the connection before it has a chance to deepen. Women reveal interest with touch too, but it's rarely loud or obvious. You're looking for those fleeting, almost accidental grazes, a light touch on your arm when she's laughing, a playful push when you've said something teasing, or brushing lint off your shirt even though it didn't need fixing. These moments speak volumes, but only to the man wise enough to understand that desire is usually quiet, not loud. A woman who touches you repeatedly, gently, naturally, especially on your forearm, shoulder, or back, is often signaling comfort and interest. But here again, context matters. Is she touching everyone? Is she generally tactile? Some women are naturally warm and affectionate with friends and strangers alike. So you must read her body language holistically in the context of her overall behavior. It's easy to fall into the trap of overanalyzing every single move. The real art is stepping back and noticing patterns rather than isolated gestures. Stoicism teaches that we must cultivate awareness without attachment to an outcome, watch without clinging to our desires. If her signals are warm and consistent across her body language, that's what matters. But let's not overlook when her body language communicates disinterest or discomfort, because this is just as important for a man who wants to respect and understand women. A woman who consistently crosses her arms tightly, angles her torso away from you, or keeps creating physical distance, even as she smiles or converses politely, is often signaling that her energy is close to intimacy. Her polite conversation may conceal her true feelings, but her body rarely lies. Even subtle cues like turning her head slightly away when you speak, pulling her feet back under her chair, or keeping her handbag between you can indicate she's erecting physical and psychological barriers. This is where your emotional intelligence is tested, not to take rejection personally, but to respect what she's silently communicating. Women appreciate men who are emotionally aware enough to recognize and honor these cues. It builds trust immediately. It shows you're present, respectful, attuned, not grasping or needy. This is what separates a high-value man from the average. He reads the moment as it is, not as he wishes it to be. So much of this comes back to presence. When you're fully present, you start seeing how her gestures change in rhythm with yours, how her body begins reflecting your energy, how her proximity shifts depending on how safe she feels with you. The dance of attraction is subtle. It requires patience, attunement, and respect for her signals. This is why so many men struggle in today's dating landscape. They're disconnected from this reality. They're looking for surface-level hacks when what's really needed is to slow down, observe, listen not just with your ears, but with your eyes and your awareness. Because a woman's body often says more than her words ever will. So if you're the kind of man who wants to truly connect, who wants to understand what she's silently telling you across the table, you must learn this language, not to manipulate, but to honor, respect, and respond with presence. If you begin to really observe, you'll notice something even deeper happening when a woman feels connected to you. Her breathing shifts. It slows down, sinks gently with yours when there's harmony, or quickens when she's excited, nervous, or emotionally stirred by your presence. Breath is one of those primal, almost invisible cues that so many men overlook. But when you start to pay attention, it tells you everything. Is she comfortable, anxious, bored, captivated? A woman who feels drawn to you will relax into her breathing, her chest will rise more gently, her shoulders will drop away from her ears, and she'll exhale longer, as if letting go in your presence. These are not signs you can rush to notice. They require that you remain still enough inside yourself to sense them. Even her voice changes. When she's attracted, a woman's tone softens, lowers, slows. She becomes more melodic, even playful at times, without necessarily intending to seduce, but her body and voice naturally shift when she feels an emotional pull. You can hear it in how she draws out words, in how she lingers on phrases, in the pauses that invite you in. This vocal shift is as much a part of her body language as her posture or touch. It is her way of creating intimacy without words spelling it out directly. But beyond these subtle attractions, you must also understand body language as a conversation, a two-way dynamic that depends on your own presence and energy. Your body language, your posture, your ease, or your tension sets the tone. Women are exquisitely sensitive to this. They read you just as much as you're trying to read them. If you lean in anxiously, fidget, or cross your arms in defensiveness, her body will often respond accordingly, withdrawing, closing off, or becoming guarded. A grounded, stoic man communicates through his posture that he is comfortable in himself. Open shoulders, relaxed hands, slow, deliberate movements, all of these say without words, I am present, I am listening, I am here, and I don't need to chase or rush. When you embody this, a woman often responds by softening, relaxing, leaning into your energy. Her body follows yours, but only when yours is calm and sure. Eye contact, too, is a language all its own, not just fleeting glances, but the kind of steady gaze that says, I see you, and I'm not intimidated by what I see. Women feel that deeply. When your eye contact is steady but not intrusive, warm but not needy, you create an invisible tether of intimacy that can't be faked. And when a woman maintains or deepens that gaze, she's often inviting you to step closer, not physically at first, but emotionally. There's also a fascinating interplay between vulnerability and attraction. A woman might reveal vulnerability physically when she feels drawn to you, exposing the inside of her wrists as she speaks, gently brushing her hair back from her face to reveal her neck, allowing small, unconscious gestures that invite closeness. These are ancient signals of trust, openness, and surrender. But they are fragile. If you rush to interpret, or act on them without patience, they evaporate as quickly as they appear. The best men, the most emotionally intelligent men, respond not with immediate action, but with quiet recognition. Even when it FELSLIKE nothing is H, PPEN, ING vulserahalets gently without exploiting it. They offer presence in return, allowing the woman to remain in that space without fear. This is what makes you irresistible, not a clever line, not a flashy display of confidence, but a calm, grounded presence that reads and respects what's unfolding. Even the smallest movements, like the way she places her hand near yours, can carry enormous meaning. Does she leave her hand resting close, inviting touch without demanding it? Does she allow that proximity to linger? When a woman positions herself so that touch becomes an easy, natural possibility, she's giving you permission, not necessarily asking, but allowing. What's crucial here is how you respond. The Stoic man does not react impulsively or anxiously. He observes, he breathes, he stays with the energy without grasping or clinging. Attraction builds in these moments of patience. Women feel safest with men who can allow space to emerge naturally without rushing to close it or fill it. This presence allows you to read even more nuanced signals like pacing. How fast is she moving in conversation, in touch, in proximity? When a woman slows her rhythm to match yours, when she allows silence to emerge comfortably between words, when she stops adjusting her clothing nervously or glancing at her phone, this is a moment to recognize her comfort and openness. Conversely, when she quickens her pace, talking faster, glancing around, adjusting her position repeatedly, her body is signaling discomfort or distraction, even if her words seem engaged. Respect this, don't push through it or ignore it. The key is to remain attuned without interpreting every sign as either rejection or approval. Dating today has become filled with noise, apps, fast conversations, endless distractions. But when you learn to slow down and read a woman's body language, you're stepping into a kind of sacred space that few men ever notice. Her movements, her gestures, her rhythm, all of these offer insight into what she truly feels and desires. You're no longer just listening to her words, you're listening with your whole self, you're tuning into her presence, into the way her body and energy respond to yours. This is the art of understanding women, not through games or strategies, but through presence and empathy. The man who learns to do this doesn't need to chase validation, because he's already deeply attuned to what's unfolding between him and the woman in front of him. His confidence comes from observation, not assumption, from calm presence, not anxious desire. There's something almost poetic about the way a woman's body language expresses her intentions without a single word. When you become attuned to it, you start seeing how her gestures, posture, and micro-expressions form a dance of attraction, curiosity, and sometimes hesitation. And the beauty of this language is that it speaks in subtle patterns, not in blunt signals. You have to listen with your presence, not just your mind. Consider the pauses that happen between you. Silence itself becomes a form of body language. A woman who feels safe and interested will allow moments of quiet to linger without discomfort. If she sits with you, silent but soft, unhurried, not reaching for her phone or glancing around the room, this is a powerful signal that she's present with you. The ability to share silence comfortably is one of the most underrated signs of genuine connection. You might also notice how she reacts when you gently lean back, when you slow the energy down intentionally. Does she lean in to fill that space? Does she unconsciously close the gap between you? These are signs of emotional investment. A woman who leans in when you lean back isn't simply reacting out of politeness. She's revealing an underlying desire for closeness, for intimacy, for shared space. And then there are the ways she plays with objects in front of her: a glass, a napkin, a piece of jewelry. Fidgeting is a common reaction in dating scenarios, but it carries meaning when read in context. Is she nervously twisting her necklace while keeping her eyes on yours? Is she running her fingers along the rim of a glass slowly as she speaks to you? These subtle behaviors often reveal emotional states: excitement, anticipation, self-consciousness, desire. A woman who is fully present with you may fidget gently in a way that draws attention to her femininity, fingers softly brushing skin, touching her lips thoughtfully, adjusting her hair, not because she's self-absorbed, but because she's aware of your gaze and responding to it, almost inviting you into that awareness. One of the most profound signals that men tend to overlook is the relaxation of a woman's body when she feels emotionally safe. You can feel it as her shoulders lower, as her arms uncross, as her body seems to sink gently into the space you share. It's in the small adjustments: a woman who tucks one foot under her chair, who tilts her head slightly as she listens attentively, who angles her hips subtly toward you even while speaking about something casual. These physical shifts speak louder than most declarations, yet it's not always about openness. Just as a woman's body language can reveal interest, it can also reveal withdrawal, and this is where many men stumble, misreading polite engagement for romantic interest. A woman might smile warmly, speak kindly, maintain appropriate eye contact, and yet her body could be telling a different story entirely. She might lean subtly away, maintain a protective object between you, or angle her torso slightly off center from yours. These cues ask for respect, not persuasion. You can't fake this awareness. Women feel when a man is attuned to them, when he is truly present. And the man who can remain calm, patient, and receptive, even when the signals are mixed, demonstrates rare emotional intelligence. This is what makes him stand out: not smooth talk or boldness, but awareness. This is why it's important not to approach this as a checklist of signals to decode. Women are complex and nuanced, Body language is contextual and relational. It depends on the moment, the environment, her mood, your dynamic. Sometimes a woman might cross her arms not because she's closed, but because she's cold. Sometimes she might lean away because she's tired, not disinterested. What matters is your ability to read the whole picture and, more importantly, your ability to stay calm and responsive rather than reactive. There's something attractive about a man who can notice all of this without turning it into a performance. When you can remain seated across from her, calm, relaxed, smiling gently as you observe, you become magnetic. Not because you've figured out a game, but because you're embodying genuine presence. Presence is rare today. Most people are distracted, rushed, impatient. But when you slow down and really watch how a woman communicates with her body, you realize that the connection you're looking for has been right there the whole time in the lean of her shoulder. The softness of her gaze, the way she mirrors your posture unconsciously. You become less anxious, less desperate for verbal confirmation. You learn to trust what you feel in the space between you and her, in the atmosphere that builds when two people are paying attention not only to words, but to all the ways we communicate without speaking. This attentiveness extends to the environment itself. Watch how she responds when you shift settings, from a crowded bar to a quieter cafe, from standing to sitting, from leaning forward to leaning back. Her body language will change in response to context and comfort. A woman who follows your lead into a more intimate space, whose body visibly relaxes as the noise fades, is signaling trust and interest. There's also a profound respect that emerges when you allow a woman to show you, in her own way and time, how comfortable she feels. The Stoic man understands that not every signal needs immediate action. Sometimes presence alone is enough. To witness her body's language with compassion and curiosity rather than urgency. So much of the frustration that men experience in dating stems from a lack of patience with this subtle dance. But when you accept that attraction unfolds gradually through these small cues, you become free. Free from the need to chase, free from the anxiety of needing to figure it out right away. You learn to savor the unfolding itself. Her body language exposes what she wants, but only to the man who's willing to slow down and see her clearly, without projection, without pressure. What's beautiful about this whole process is that when you're paying attention to her body language, not to judge or to control, but simply to understand, you're engaging in something far more intimate than conversation itself. You're telling her, without words, I see you, I notice what most men overlook. And that level of attentiveness is rare today, which is exactly why it is so powerful. You may notice how a woman's posture shifts over the course of your interaction. Maybe she starts off sitting upright, polite but reserved. But then, as the conversation flows and you offer a calm and open presence, she slowly begins to relax, her shoulders soften, her spine eases into the curve of the chair, her body begins to orient itself more directly toward yours. These are signs of increasing comfort and trust. She may cross and uncross her legs, reposition herself so her body is more open, expose more of her neck or wrists, all subtle invitations that communicate, I feel safe with you. Even the way she laughs can reveal something deeper. Is her laughter light, spontaneous, emerging easily and fully? Or is it polite, restrained and brief? When a woman genuinely enjoys your presence, her laughter is unguarded, uninhibited. She allows herself to express pleasure, joy, delight, and that openness is a direct reflection of how your presence makes her feel. And it's not just about what she does when she's looking at you. Pay attention to how she behaves when she isn't consciously aware that you're observing her. In moments when she thinks your attention is elsewhere, does she glance at you from across the room? Does she check her appearance, adjusting her hair, smoothing her clothing in those fleeting moments? These micro signals often reveal an authentic attraction, an unspoken desire to be seen by you, to remain in your awareness even when she thinks you're distracted. This is why I always say, the most attractive man isn't the loudest in the room. He's the one most attuned to the energy that passes between two people. He notices when a woman's breath slows in his presence. He recognizes when her body begins to lean in ever so slightly. He observes when her gaze lingers, when her smile softens, when her hands reach for the space between them just a little more often than before. There's a grace to this kind of observation. It's not clinical or cold. It's tender, curious, and respectful. The Stoic man knows that his own stillness is what creates the conditions for trust and connection to blossom. He doesn't rush to act on every gesture, nor does he let insecurity distort his perception. Instead, he remains centered, aware that a woman's body language is a living, breathing conversation, one that requires patience, nuance, and humility to understand. And when you start interacting from this place, something extraordinary happens. She feels seen but not scrutinized. She feels appreciated but not objectified. You're communicating respect for her complexity while offering the security of your presence. That's where true intimacy begins. You might also observe how her gestures evolve depending on the emotional tone of the conversation. When you share something personal, something vulnerable, does she mirror that openness by leaning in, by softening her voice, by allowing her own guard to lower? Does her body express empathy not just with words, but with posture, with gaze, with proximity? Or if you make her laugh, does she instinctively touch your arm, lean toward you, playfully close the space between you? These are beautiful signs that her body is aligning with her emotional experience, and that she feels safe enough to let you into her personal space literally and emotionally. But the most important thing to remember is that her body language isn't a puzzle to solve, it's an invitation to presence. The man who pays attention without attachment, who observes with warmth rather than urgency, who remains attuned without becoming reactive, this is the man who women trust, respect, and feel drawn toward. This is the paradox of attraction. You cultivate it not by trying to get something from her, but by offering the gift of your presence. You are simply there, steady, patient, calm, allowing her to unfold at her own pace, honoring each gesture as an authentic expression of who she is. Her body language exposes what she wants from you, but only if you're prepared to listen without agenda. And this kind of listening changes you. You become more grounded, more confident, more capable of navigating connection with clarity and calm. You stop second guessing yourself because you're no longer waiting for permission or affirmation. You're simply attuned to the truth of what's happening in front of you. In today's fast-paced, distracted world, this quality of presence is more rare and valuable than ever. When you cultivate it, you don't just become more attractive, you become more at peace with yourself. Because the same awareness that allows you to read her body language also allows you to understand your own inner state, your tension, your anxiety, your desire for approval. And by becoming aware of these within yourself, you're able to approach women from a place of wholeness rather than lack. So much of what we call game or dating strategy is really just distraction from this deeper truth. When you're present, when you understand how women communicate nonverbally, you don't need tactics or tricks. You need empathy, patience, and courage, the courage to slow down, observe, and honor what's unfolding naturally. Her body language is always revealing something: her comfort, her attraction, her hesitation, her desire. The question is whether you're prepared to notice it without rushing, whether you can stay grounded in your own calmness while she reveals herself to you. And perhaps the most overlooked aspect of all is that her body language is always dynamic, always changing as the connection between you evolves moment by moment. This is not a static thing, a single glance or gesture that means one thing forever. It's a living dialogue that reflects her state of mind, her emotions, her comfort, her curiosity, her desire. And the man who is wise, the man who is grounded in himself, knows how to honor that changing landscape without trying to control it. You might notice how she starts to mirror not just your posture or gestures, but your emotional energy itself. When you're calm, she softens. When you slow down, she slows too. When you hold a gaze steadily, kindly, without needing to dominate or impress, she settles into that energy. This is the art of attunement, noticing that as you shift into presence, she is naturally drawn into that space with you. Her body language doesn't just expose what she wants from you. It also reflects what you are giving her energetically. And this is where real masculine leadership shows up in dating, not through force or manipulation, but through setting the emotional tone of the interaction. Women crave this in ways they often cannot articulate. They long for a man who holds space for them to reveal themselves safely, without judgment or impatience. Even something as subtle as how she arranges her belongings near you, placing her phone face down, putting her purse aside so there's no barrier, keeping her body oriented toward you while you talk, these are expressions of where her attention lies, and attention is precious today. If her attention is with you fully, without constant glances away, without fidgeting out of distraction or discomfort, this is a deeper signal than any words could provide. But remember, it is not about obsessing over signals. The goal is not to master every nuance and become a body language expert for the sake of advantage. The goal is to cultivate a way of being, a stillness, a listening presence, that naturally allows these signals to emerge and be recognized. When a woman touches her own face gently while looking at you, when she adjusts her hair unconsciously while you speak, when her smile extends into her eyes, when her lips part slightly while listening, these are invitations. But they are invitations best responded to with patience, respect, and a deep sense of responsibility for the emotional space you are co-creating. This is why so many men fail to understand what women want. They try to rush past this delicate dance, seeking shortcuts or tactics. They miss that the journey itself, the subtle dance of attention, observation, awareness, is where connection is built. It's not just what her body language says, it's how you make her feel while she's saying it, even without words. When you become this man, the man who is not rushing to act, not desperate for an outcome, not distracted or self-absorbed, you embody a rare magnetism. You become a safe place for her to relax into her natural feminine expression. And that expression, that unfolding, is what women long for most, to be seen, felt, understood, not just heard, but truly received. This kind of presence changes how she responds to you. She doesn't need to test you with games or guard herself behind polite conversation. She doesn't need to hide behind mixed signals or half-truths, because your very presence tells her that she is safe to express what she feels, even in silence, even in subtlety. This is what it means to be a hive, Al. You man today, not status or bravado, but emotional intelligence and calm leadership. A man who knows that connection is built moment by moment through quiet observation, through sensitivity to body language, through reading the atmosphere between two people without rushing it or forcing it into something it is not. And when you learn this, dating becomes easier, clearer, more fulfilling. You're no longer trapped in doubt or confusion about where you stand with a woman. Her body will show you softly, quietly, consistently, if you are present enough to listen. So, the next time you sit across from her, whether it's a first date or an intimate conversation, slow down, breathe, observe without analysis, feel without grasping. Notice how her energy moves toward you or away from you, how her gestures open or close, how her gaze softens or drifts. Be curious, not controlling. Be present, not performing, because her body language is already telling you everything you need to know. And the greatest gift you can give her is the gift of being a man who truly listens not just with his ears, but with his entire awareness. That's what creates trust. That's what sparks true attraction. That's what makes you unforgettable, not because you mastered some trick, but because you offered your calm, confident, patient, and attentive presence in a world that is moving too fast to notice. And in that quiet space between you, in those small moments when she softens, lingers, leans in, allows herself to be vulnerable, her body will show you exactly what she wants, not through words, but through that ancient universal language that every man can learn to read, if only he slows down enough to see it.